All right, welcome back to the podcast. We got episode 12, and as you probably seen from the title, we got Complex on the mic. Now, I first ran into Complex a couple years ago. It was at a local practice spot out here in Vancouver. We got talking about how to take our training to that next level, and I'm not sure if he really wanted to share, if I just got him talking and he couldn't stop, but he was super generous with his time. We were going for 30 minutes, and it was super insightful, so when I got this podcast going, he was definitely one on my mind that I want to get on the mic to share with you guys. So I'm glad that we were able to connect. And he's been really deep in the online space recently with his mentorship program and his blog posts, his content creation. So really good timing. Y'all should check it out. And we talk about it a little bit more on the episode as well. And Complex will be the second Massive Monkeys Day footwork champ that we have on the show. Our episode 3 guest, Razzie Dean. Shout out to Dean. He actually battled Complex in the finals in 2016, so that's dope. And on this episode, we get deep on how Complex was training both mentally and physically, and the toll it took on him to take home that win in 2015 to become Massive Monkeys Footwork Day champ, take home that 4-finger ring. We also talk about a few other things like age and battling, competitiveness and breaking, other styles, the works. We talk shop, so let's get into it. What's going on, guys? Wolvie here, and welcome to The Cypher. On this episode and every episode of In The Cypher Breaking Podcast, I interview highly skilled and experienced b-boys and b-girls, and they share their knowledge and experience with you to help you become a better dancer. And on the mic today, we've got Ash Cornett, also known as Complex. Complex is part of Dance Brooms and Hood's crew and reigns from the Pacific Northwest breaking scene. Dancing for 21 plus years, Complex has helped create crews such as Misguided Steps and Battle Reflex in the past, and continues to build and create in this scene. Complex has begun an online outreach to teach, speak on the philosophies of hip-hop, and educate through Patreon, called Complex Breaks. He believes that breaking and the rest of hip-hop culture is an art form that gives us freedom to express ourselves. All right, Ash, that's dope. I'm really excited for this interview. You ready to get into it?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Cool, man. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm chilling, living the Canadian life.
Where were you from originally? Was it Tacoma?
Yeah, originally from Tacoma, Washington, which is south of Seattle. So that's pretty much, where I started dancing.
So how'd you even get started breaking?
That's a big that you're gonna take out.
That's what you think.
I think actually it was in like 7th or 8th grade is when I actually saw my friend in band. We were in band, we were both playing drums, and he was in the back, and I knew him as a skater, so I thought he just, skated and played music. But then he started doing like swipes, and I was like, yo, what is that? And I instantly fell in love with it. And then from there, he just, after class, after school, we would just go to the gym and just, kind of like just raw form, learn different things about breaking.
That's cool, bro. And then, how did you, I guess when you got more serious, were you still like learning on your own?
So the weird thing is like, I never really had a teacher. I just had my friends show me swipes and then show me kind of like the raw forms of things like windmills, how to get started. And a lot of it was like me just going through the motions, like trial and error. This is like before internet was really a big thing also. So I just kind of mimicked what I saw from my friend, and then some other friends got into it, and then we kind of just like started building off of each other. And eventually someone introduced us to like VHS tapes, and they were kind of like Holy Grails, and we, would have to watch them and then adjust the tracking and, be like, yo, I can't I can't really see this part. Yo, fix the tracking. It's mad fuzzy. And yeah, that's how we learn how basic steps and how we learn basic power and even the dance itself, even the gestures going back and forth and within a battle, how they would react and how you would also act.
Dang, that's dope. Do you still have some of these old tapes kicking around?
I don't. I have some old crewmates and friends that have these like super rare tapes and raw footage. To this day, the Holy Grail footage that I was there live, but my friend has footage of like Kamel versus Kenny at Lords of the Floor when they battled each other after the jam, and this was like one of the rawest battles I ever seen. There's not even supposed, but there's a few footage VHS tapes that float around that some of my friends have, and man, like that was probably one of the footages that I actually saw live, but it was a VHS that I say is like probably the most influential, like kind of like that adjusted my mindset on breaking, adjusted my mindset on like the culture and how I took it a lot more serious after that.
Damn, that's wild. It's a relic.
Yeah. I mean, this is already like later on in like, after I started breaking, but it was just like, it's such an iconic moment, such an iconic, like timeless, legendary type of exchange and battle. And kind of like in its realest and rawest form. So it was just everything you kind of like envision what breaking and hip hop culture is, you know, ideally. And it was all in this exchange. And it was really dope.
Okay, cool. You said it was had a really it was a really big influence on you. Could you maybe get a little bit deeper on how specifically it was?
Yeah, I mean, I was already breaking, for a few years. This is Lords of the Floor, so this is like, you know, in the 2000s, like 2000 era. And this is like before Red Bull BC1 came to fruition. And in Seattle, there was a big jam, Lords of the Floor. And, during this battle, actually, in the finals, like, I believe it was Kamel and Migas against Ruin and Caveman. And Ruin and Caveman ended up winning. And Kenny was a judge. And Kamel had beef about that. And then in the after party is where they had their exchange, you know. And seeing that exchange, obviously they knew each other or of each other and are from kind of like that same area, you know. This is like raw New York style breaking. And you could tell there was like background, there was history, and there was beef there. And so they were going at it, and just to see kind of like the raw emotions of that exchange really made me reflect on my dancing and made me reflect on like, wow, like, you know, this is real emotions, and it's in a controlled environment, you know. Breaking was a way of people expressing themselves in a non-violent manner. Although, you know, b-boys, you know, when we get really into it, we can sometimes let some of that emotion out and it can come out in a physical form. But for the most part, I would say it's more of a non-violent exchange. And at the end of it, there's kind of like this respect on both sides. And when I saw that, it definitely affected how I was taking the dance, because I was kind of like going through the motions. I enjoyed the dance. I fell in love with it from the get-go. And, you know, that was like in the late 90s when I started dancing. And I kind of just went, you know, year in, year out, just training, trying to get better, get new moves, you know, all the things and aspirations a lot of us dancers have. And after that exchange, it made me sit back and like really think about kind of like a deeper meaning, like why do I really like this dance? Why does it affect me so much? And it just gave me, it gave me a kind of like a point in time to just sit down and reflect within myself. And I realized that this was kind of like, I don't want to say this was like, what's the word I'm looking for? This was kind of like a remedy for me. This was like an outlet for me. If I was dealing with stuff outside of breaking, if I was dealing with like heartache, or if I was dealing with problems at home, or whatever the case is, the dance was always there for me, and I can always express and put it on the floor. So I think that's when I started realizing.
Right, that you can use this dance as an outlet for life.
Yeah, for sure.
Dope. And now you're out here in Vancouver?
Yeah, I live out here now. It's been 2 years now, and I, had to go through getting residency and stuff. So now I guess I'm Canadian, or kind of Canadian.
as much as you can be, I guess.
Yeah, I guess until you go for citizenship.
Right. Cool, man. What brought you out here?
Well, honestly, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, she lives out here, and we were doing long distance. I would, go from Tacoma up to, Vancouver all the time, and she would go from Vancouver to Tacoma all the time also. And after like 4 years of long distance, just, had to be like, hey, what are we doing with where are we going with this? And she was doing really well with her dance up here, because she's also a dancer, and also her collective was doing a lot of big things up here. So it made sense for me to just like make the move and go and come up here to Vancouver.
Nice, bro. And how you liking it so far?
It's cool. Every time someone finds out I'm from the States, they always ask me about the politics, which is weird because I don't live in the States, so I don't try to follow the politics and all that. But yeah, also when I go back home to visit, they always complain about politics, so it's like I can't get away from all the politics talk. It's kind of like weird. But up here is a lot more chill. Weather is pretty much the same. I mean, Washington State and Vancouver it's Northwest, right? Pacific Northwest, and it's about the same. Maybe a few degrees colder at certain times, but yeah, it's definitely is a different vibe. You're in the same continent, but you're in a different country. So there are certain things that are just a little tweaked differently, and you're just like, wait, what? And you quickly get acclimated to, the change. But, it's just very subtle changes that I think help make it more of a chill vibe.
Okay, cool. When you're out in Tacoma, what crews were you repping?
Well, my crew is dance rooms. There's 8 of us. I'm the last member to be put down. Very close-knit family, essentially. A lot of these guys I've known since I started, and we weren't even in the same crew at the time. So I just knew them like childhood friends. And then, we also have a family crew, which umbrellas, dance rooms, soul felons, and some other people that we put down, like our homie Jay from Korea. I think he also rocks MB. Momo, who also, lives in Vancouver. Which is called, that family group, we just call ourselves Hoods, and,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, before that, I was part of a couple other crews. I started Battle Reflex, and then after going our separate ways, I started up Misguided Steps, and then, I kind of like stepped back and like just kind of like focused on my craft and was solo for a long time till, Dance Rooms put me down.
Gotcha. That's cool. And what do you think, or sorry, why do you think, dance rooms wanted you in?
I was already repping a lot of times in competitions with like
Yeah.
Germs and Juan and then Woody and Carnage. Um, Over time, it was just like, some of the crew members would be like, "Hey, we should put him down." And then some were like hesitant. They're like, "Oh, it's always been just 7 of us. I don't know." At the time, I was going through a lot of like emotional distress, so I think a lot of them thought I was kind of like an emotional time bomb. But I mean, I was in my
Yeah.
20s. I was in my 20s at the time, and I was dealing with like life and stuff. So I understand where they
Hmm.
come from. But eventually, they put me down just because, like, we were already dancing together, so it just made sense.
That's cool, man. What would you say is one big lesson that you carry with you that you learned from those guys?
Big lesson from those guys. For us, we were always about like, just doing your own thing. There's a lot of things, not to get too much in history of things, but there's a lot of routine, like Dance Rooms was known for like having these epic routine battles. And we always had routine battles against, Massive Monkeys, and they were,
Okay.
they were like, a few years older than us. And obviously Massive, people know who Massive is. They put their name on the map and they put in work. And we were the guys that always wanted to compete against them. And we always prided ourselves in coming with original, different, styles, transitions, moves, routines that, we really take a lot of pride in. And the other thing that we always say in our crew is, you just gotta just get weird, like bug out. Like it's all about like,
Yeah.
trying to catch that vibe, catch that ghost, and then like whatever comes out, like people get too concerned with, oh, this, I don't know if this looks right, or I don't know if this is fresh. And it's like, yo, just put your expression out there. I think that's the biggest thing that I take from my crew.
Cool, man. That's dope. Was that reflected in the way you trained?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of times where I would train by myself just because I was working full time, dancing full time. My schedule never meshed up with everybody. Occasionally, a few people here and there, we would get together and train. But I always sat back and kind of like thought about how can I take this step? How can I flip it? How can I make this transition my transition? And really like not try to even see other people. Like after a certain part of, dancing, after a certain amount of years, you get to the point where you need to have some self-identity. And for me, there was a good long time where I didn't watch footage. I didn't watch what other people were doing. I kind of just like stuck myself in the lab and I kind of like just drilled and then just did moves and try to create and then go to a competition and bring them out and then kind of like, evaluate, not really based on like how people respond because that really doesn't matter to me, but how I was able to translate whatever I created, like in a competition, on a performance, on a stage, whatever the case is.
Cool. Could you maybe get a little bit deeper on that? Maybe give us an example.
Yeah. I guess, a big one, for example, was, Massive Monkey Day. They have a footwork battle and I always wanted to win it. And I, I remember one year one year I was tiebreaker for top 8 and I didn't make it. And then another year I made top 8 and then another year I think it was like maybe top 4. It took a few times, but finally, I was able to win and, get the 4-finger ring, get the footwork champion ring
Yeah.
when I went through that process, especially that year when I actually won, when I was going through that process, I actually locked myself up in the lab and I kind of like just drilled everything that I knew footwork wise. I was like, well, cause it's a footwork battle, you know, not really like, not saying that we should separate or categorize breaking, but it happened to be a footwork battle and it's something of a goal that I wanted to win. So I locked myself up and I kind of just went through the motions and drilled, thought about every possibility, form, technique, creation, what was my flow going to be like, listened to a lot of different music from like, you know, DJ mixes you expect to hear in jams nowadays to, a lot of the old school like breaks, like a lot of the funk. And I just kind of took those moments and bugged out, paused, reflected on what I made, and then kind of slowed down, try to break down everything I did step by step and be like, okay, why did it feel this way? Where'd my flow go here? And then replicate it and just kind of like drill it out until enter the competition. And yeah, you know, put in the hard work and was able to get the win.
Yeah, man, that's dope. It's a process for sure. Like, what was your frequency like? How often were you training?
I was training every day.
Crazy. How are you able to sustain that?
Well, there's sacrifices. I was working full time and also dancing full time. At that time, also, I was getting older and I had a self-realization, self-evaluation. I was like, hey, I need to change my diet. I need to go to the gym. I need to make sure my body is prepared to be able to do whatever it is I can imagine doing without having any restrictions. So I would, wake up 5 a.m, go to the gym for like half an hour, work, full-time work, so 8 hours. After that, go home, either practice in a very small area in my house or my apartment actually, or I would go back to the gym because sometimes I did 2-a-days and I would do a light workout, but it would be more focused on just practicing at the gym. And then, after that, it was like already late, go home, you know, eat right, go back to sleep and, do it all over again.
Crazy. And was every practice the same?
No, I wouldn't
would
say
you structure them kind of differently?
Well, for that time, I would say they were very similar because it was such a goal-oriented thing. It was a goal-oriented competition where it was specifically footwork. So a lot of my time I did spend thinking of footwork and thinking of footwork variations and steps and also thinking of the foundation, and how to make my foundation cleaner. So a lot of those practices ended up being very similar because of that. After that competition, after I won that, I still followed that regimen, but then I started adjusting. Certain days I would focus more on the stability, on my freezes, holding myself up, building up that strength. Other times I would be working on transitions, power transition.
Very cool. Whole process, a lot of work.
Yeah. Then that's the sacrifice. It's like you're working another job, but it's a, you know, it's a labor of love if you enjoy it. But there's other things like I still kicked it. I still hung out with my friends, but it was just not as often. And it was, very sparingly in comparison to maybe when I didn't have that goal at that time. Even at that time, you know, relationships, you know, keeping up with them, whether it's your parents, siblings, or, you know, girlfriend, it was a lot of that you had to sacrifice and be like, hey, I want to talk, but I gotta get to the gym. I can shoot the facts. You know, like you kind of have
work.
You kind of have to make those sacrifices, and the people that are willing to understand that you're making those sacrifices, are definitely people that are still relevant in my life now, and that's fine, that's like, if the situation was flipped and they had something they were passionate about, I would want them to pursue that, and I wouldn't want to be the burden or the hindrance that caused them to not achieve.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. And then, so what would you say, from not making it through the top 8 to winning the jam, what do you think helped you get to that next level?
A big part of it is, it's like so cliche to say, but it's just putting in the work. I think, especially nowadays, we are thinking so much about the quick fix. We are trying to have immediate results that we tend to forget that, like, taking the slower path, being patient, leads to that victory you want, as opposed to, a quick fix. Let's say, I don't know, let's say in that example, it was a fluke and I ended up winning based off a fluke. If it was like weak brackets or people crashing or whatever the case may be, I don't think it would mean so much to me as opposed to what, with me putting in, having the work ethic and having the patience to build up to it. The anticipation of, like, going from not making top 8 to eventually winning that competition makes it more worthwhile and something that you can cherish, as opposed to, I won, not based on luck or anything, but it's like just serendipity. I won and I feel good about it now, but what's the next thing? It's kind of like, it was a quick fix. Now what's the next fix,
Yeah, for sure. Cool, bro. Are you still battling a lot now?
Yes and no. It's kind of weird. The thing is, like, my mental space is, when I moved up here, it was a different environment, but it's still the same. So it was, like I said, it was like subtle changes. And those subtle changes, I think over time, it kind of takes your mental space. So I want to say, like, I don't battle as much as I did before. I think for me, slowing down to recognize I'm a lot older now, and I need to learn to be even more patient with my body as far as, like, pushing it, and then recovery. Recovery takes a little bit longer because I think now, after I recognize that, that's when I stepped back and reflected on just competitions and battles in general. And there was a point where, like, battles didn't really feel good. Like, I wasn't really enjoying myself. It kind of felt like I was kind of like just going through the motions and not enjoying being there, being in the present, or even just enjoying watching exchanges or even having exchanges. I kind of just existed in that space.
Crazy. So I guess thinking back to to when you were, I guess, like the Battle Cat and training really hard for the next jam, is there one really memorable battle that stays with you and has had a big impact on you?
There's a few. Actually, there's more than a few, but I guess I can give you. There's definitely one where it was impactful. I guess I can give you one example, and I think it was when Alien S was in Seattle, and he did an octagon battle. And the octagon battle's pretty much, it's a circle with some cones and tape, and you can't knock over the cones or mess with the tape, so it's in and out of the octagon. So there are restrictions. And it definitely was like a battle of control, having control of your body and having control of your dance. And he had that competition. I didn't win that, but Ness really liked my dance. I guess, I mean, I can't really speak for him, but Ness, told me, come to Europe. I'm having the World Octagon final there. Come through. I'll take care of you. We'll get you, I'll put you in, top 8 or whatever, and you can battle. And, I did it, and it was a dope experience. I met so many people, just like, in this dance, in this culture. The community becomes smaller and smaller the more you travel, because you start realizing, like, a lot of us are very like-minded people. And a big portion of why a lot of us get into breaking is because of that similar mindset. But when I got to Europe, I think it was in Switzerland, it was in Zurich. Yeah, I just had dope exchanges on the floor, and also, just in conversation. And at the time, like, I wasn't really sure about my style, and I think that was the thing that was kind of like bugging or itching at me. I wouldn't win competitions I felt like I should have won in the Northwest. I would be like, oh, I got robbed, and, be sad about it, just like, when you're younger, you just kind of like take things a little more personal as opposed to constructive. And then when I got to Europe, I didn't win, but, I did really well, and I had people that I've never met before, like, come up to me and just tell me they really like my style, and they just like were bugging out. And that really set me back. I was just like, I don't know, not in awe, but I was just like dumbfounded for words. I didn't know what to say, because I've never had that kind of response, especially with people that I've, just met or not even met. And so that gave me, So that gave me a boost of confidence. And when I got back from that trip, I think when I got back from that trip, I concreted kind of like what my style was. And big part of that was I was confident in who I was, not just on the floor, but as a person. And I was fine with whatever I did, or however well or not well I did in a competition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy how a little bit of confidence or gratification can do for you.
For sure. And I mean, breaking obviously is you have to boast in breaking. You have to come out strong, whether it's a cipher or battle or even just getting down. Like, you have to have that presence and that charisma. That's a big part of it.
If you're like judging battles, do you take that into consideration, like their presence?
Oh, for sure. I don't want to say that it sways my judgment in a competition, but I definitely play that into a factor when I'm judging. If someone's coming out, with confidence, charisma, I already know that, this guy's feeling himself, or this girl's feeling herself, and she's ready to get down, she's ready to kill it. Now, show me your content, like, do you have the content to back up your charisma? Do you have the execution to back up that personality? So it factors in, but it doesn't sway my judgment, because, like, on the other side, if someone's not as confident, but they kill it with their round, the execution, the difficulty level, and, compared to the person that had a lot of charisma, I gotta look at what the other person is bringing and be like, yeah, you're fresh, but you can't just 6-step on and expect to win. That's kind of weird.
Yeah. Okay, cool. In your opinion, what makes a good b-boy great, especially like from like a judge's perspective, or even just you?
I think what makes it like a b-boy or a b-girl great is like their ability to be vulnerable in their dance, and to to actually dance. I mean, like there's a lot of b-boys and b-girls that kind of like jump the gun and just want to do the moves and the tricks. But a big part is like, if they dance, I'm like, oh, that's already a plus. Like, you can groove, you can listen to the music, and I'm starting to feel your vibe. Okay, tell me your story. But a big part of it, I think, is the vulnerability. It's something is hard to explain without, I guess, the sense of wisdom. And what I mean, the definition for me for wisdom is just experience and time. And, for doing this so long, for watching it so long, and for being a part of the culture for so long, when you see someone in that moment, catching the ghost, riding the wave, and then putting their vulnerability, exposing themselves, kind of like a piece of their soul out there, it's such a surreal moment, and it's definitely the ideal situation I think all dancers want to get to. I'm not even just talking about like breaking. I'm just talking about dancers in general. Like when you get to that point where you can put yourself exposed, bare to people witness, and be okay with it and be confident still with whatever you did, people resonate with that honesty. And I think whether you're audience or whether you're a judge, or even if you're the opponent or competitor, you can resonate with that honesty. And I think that's probably the most ideal I can think of.
Beautiful, man. That's dope. Yeah, it does take time. It's kind of what, when I was talking to Why Not, he described it as like the hypnotic state that a lot of dancers feel when the music just takes over and your body's just moving,
Oh yeah, for sure. That's
cool.
You get lost in the sauce and you just kind of like go off, and people are like, yo, what's going on? Like, I don't understand. You just became the music. I don't understand. And it's, when you see that, I don't care who it is. If they could be like someone brand new to learning how to break, to like a veteran, whoever catches it and you just see it, all you can do is just appreciate it. That's all you can do.
Yeah, for sure. Do you cover this with the students that you're working with right now?
Yeah, there's a big part of like dancers in general. So I'm fortunate enough to teach students who also come from different dancing backgrounds. So, whether they do popping, whacking, if they do locking or even house, a big part of it is it's a different groove. Breaking obviously is a different groove compared to house or compared to, popping. But the essence, I think, is what really is the important part. When you have that breaking essence, you have to understand the music, first of all. The music is our backbone. Like, we dance on the breaks. Well, why do we dance on the breaks, And once you understand, like, when you hit that break, you get that feeling. When you hit, it could be a simple two-step. You can just, you just hit it the way a b-boy hits it, and you're just like, okay, you understand now. Like, you're not trying to hit it like you're not trying to pop. You're trying to break. You're trying to hit that break the way a b-boy or a b-girl hits it. And that essence is really important. And I think that's what defines a lot of the different styles. And I'm not, ballet, other street styles that I just mentioned. I think any form, whatever that focus is, the way you hit it defines what kind of style that is.
Yeah, that's cool, bro. Could you, last time we were talking about, you teaching, one thing you wanted to focus on with your students was, freestyle. Could you kind of tie that into, to that?
Yeah. Freestyle, I feel like it's like the gate. It's like, it's like the gate to catching that, that feeling, to getting lost in the music. Freestyling allows you to let go of any inhibitions and to just be comfortable in your skin, to like do whatever or wherever the music takes you. In order to freestyle well, though, you still have to have your foundation. You still have to have your structure. So the trick that I've always been told, and the trick that I always tell people also, is like, yeah, drill all your foundation, do all the things that you need to do, to prepare your body, be strong enough to do the moves, be confident in all the steps by drilling and training those moves. But then when you get into a competition, or when you get into even if you just go to a club and you're just like chilling or hanging out, when you hear a song that really moves you, take all that stuff that you know and throw it out the window and then just go off. Your muscle memory is going to kick in, and you're going to have your defaults, obviously, because everybody repeats one way or the other. But don't worry about the repeating. Worry about catching that vibe, and then stop thinking about all the structural things, because that'll come if you put in the work. That comes in naturally with the muscle memory. When you put in the work as your backbone, as your foundation, you're just going off. You're just like kind of like living in that moment and living with that music.
For sure. That's cool. Like, that's something that anyone can do. Like, just find a track or music. It doesn't have to be breaks that they just really feel, and just play it, like lose yourself, get into like some meditative state and just move.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the other thing is, even when I practice, myself, or even if I'm trying to create, I don't listen to the same stuff over and over. Like, I'm not a one-dimensional human being. Like, I don't just listen to like breaks. Like, I don't just listen to mixes. Like, obviously I listen to hip hop, but I also listen to like alternative music. I listen to bands. I listen to house music, go down the list, even pop music, whatever it is. Like, listen to things that you're going to feel, and all of a sudden it's moving you, and you're just like, oh, and then you start understanding music itself as opposed to the genre of music. And then I think you get more comfortable in, as, my crew says, get weird, you get weird, do different things. And all of a sudden you're opening other creative transitions or other creative moves, and you feel more confident in your skin and being vulnerable.
Yeah, man, it's beautiful. I know that you kind of explore different styles as well as of dance as well as music. Would you recommend people not just listen to the music of these other styles, but to get deeper in the techniques as well?
I want to say yes, as long as, because I know there are traditionalists in any style of dance, right? In any style of music also, but there are traditionalists that will be like, yo, that's not breaking. Yo, that's not footwork. Yo, that's not, not really naysayers, but they're just like very much like, yo, follow the foundation. And I understand that. But creating, you have to be open-minded to try different styles. Now, I do different styles, and my excuse when I do them is I just do them for fun. I'm just joking. I'm just vibing out, and then, people see me doing a little bit of locking, or like doing a little bit of a house step, popping for fun. If anyone listens to this podcast and is from any of those practices, do not assume that I am a good popper, house dancer, or locker. It's just, these are things that I enjoy doing.
Right.
And so it's like, I'll be at a bar, I'll be in a club, and it's just like, yo, it's a popping song, and I just feel like popping. And, jokingly doing popping for so many years You know, some poppers, some of my friends that are poppers are like, yo, your pop is deep, man. Like that's a good pop. And I was like, yo, I do the same pop for like 10 years. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
You know, but it's coming from an elated, enjoying like the moment, thing. And over time, those things do dictate and kind of like create your style. So there are moments, you know, even in my dance where all of a sudden I'm hitting like some isolations just because I, you know, jokingly do some popping, or like, you know, I'll do a little bit more of I guess a more of a melty or gooey movement, which people can sometimes consider that lofting or house, where I'm just like feeling the music. But it's because I've introduced those different kind of movements to my body, and it allows me to integrate it into my breaking. So yeah, I think you should definitely be open-minded and try different styles. Keep in mind, again, you know, traditionalists may say whatever they say, but as long as you have a good foundation where they can't shake your foundation, then you should be fine. Like if you can't 6-step both ways, and then all of a sudden you're doing like some house transition thing, and some traditionalist is like, yo, that's not breaking. Well, you can't 6-step both ways. So yeah, they're going to have some kind of like static with what you're doing. You can't really, you know,
Yeah,
they can shake your foundation if your foundation isn't strong.
cool, bro. I'm glad that we got to get a little bit deeper on that. Is there anything else that you kind of want your students to take with them when they're learning from you?
I think the biggest thing is to take from, oh man, that's such a heavy question.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing to take away is there are going to be moments in your life where you're really going to question what you're going to do. Like, I'm not, you know, I don't tell people like, yo, you need to be a b-boy for life, and like, you know, this is the lifestyle, you got to live it. Like, that's a choice that everyone makes, if they decide to go down that path. If you want to be a casual dancer, of course you can still break and, you know, be casual about it. But I think you have to have a self-identity, a self-realization as to, yo, do I really want to do this as this, you know, this being my life? Or is this just a shade of who I am in my life, a part of me? Am I a hobbyist, or is this like, I want to do this for real? And I think a lot of that is looking within and like kind of like killing all the noise, the exterior noise, people giving you expectations, and also yourself giving yourself expectations, because breaking is a very competitive thing. Not saying that it's very competitive like the competitions and the battles, but I think it's a very competitive thing with ourselves. We keep comparing ourselves to other people and other dancers' successes, and we can really break ourselves down, and it gets really demoralizing. But if you just like kind of like meditate and look within yourself, you can find what your truth is and what you want to take from the culture, and also what you want to give back to the culture, because, you know, that's a balancing thing that people forget. We always want to take. Be like, oh, I need to be best. I need to win this. I need to win the money. I need to, you know, live off of my craft. But it's like, also remember, like, it's giving, hip hop and breaking is giving you so much. What are you giving back to, you know, the next generation? And I think that's something that people have to find within themselves.
Beautiful, man. That was a really good answer. I love that. I want to listen to that again right now.
I don't know, man. It's just, sometimes, you know, I already told you this, like, sometimes when I just get to talking, it's just like, you just start feeling, you know, your passion come out in your words, and you kind of just say what whatever it is you say. Cause I mean, even for me, like moving up to Canada is like really the first time where I've gone, to the deep end where like I don't have a full-time job. Like this is my life. This is my job now. And I've made that choice because I was always doing the half and half. I was always working full-time, dancing full-time, working full-time. And finally I found within myself that I need to make a decision, not only to move up here because of my wife, well, girlfriend, not wife, but also because I was not happy doing the back and forth within myself. And I finally just said, you know what, let me do this. And obviously, you know, being an artist is not, there's sacrifices with that. You know, you're not always gonna get the everyday job and get the payout, make a bunch of money. Sometimes you have to like be the starving artist, how cliche that may be, but it is a reality that, you know, you have to be a starving artist. And people can say, oh, I'm a starving artist. But I mean, are you really? Like, I mean, you know, like there's a difference. And even, yeah, like I said, for me, like I had my own doubts, you know, and my own concerns and worries. You know, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to, you know, take care of myself if like I don't win this battle, or if I don't go to this audition, or if I don't get this gig, you know, because like my craft is what is funding my lifestyle now. So it's a different reality check, compared to always having kind of like, oh, I have my job, I'll be fine. Now it's like, no, now you gotta be for real. Like, you know, and I think that's where people get into gray areas and people like think, oh, you're going to auditions, or, oh, you're doing commercial work, you're a sellout. And it's like, yo, man, are you really a sellout though? Because like, this is how people pay their bills. Like, I'm not selling out. I'm trying to live, you know, you know, like I'm trying to thrive, and I still want to be able to like give back to the community, you know, so you have to, I don't know, people get too caught up on labels, on things like that. But I think what really matters again is, what your truth is, you know, if you want to go all in, I think that's the important.
That's cool. Yeah. I feel like as long as you're not being destructive to the culture, however you define destructive, ain't a thing.
For sure. And people may disagree with you, and people may think that you are being destructive. But if those cases happen, I think you have to be open-minded to have an open dialogue with those people. I'm not saying you need to go out and like fight people and argue with people. I'm saying have healthy debates, have conversation, because that's what helps both sides understand each other and help grow even in a local community to like the community overall.
So as a full-time artist, dancer, b-boy, however you want to call it, what is one piece of advice or one big lesson learned that you'd want to share with people in similar position as you?
Man, don't be a procrastinator. I don't know. I think it's, you know, don't be scared. It's scary. I'm saying this right now, being scared. I know there's a part of me that's still scared to do things. Don't be scared is such a broad thing and such an easy thing to say. I would say understand what you're scared or what your fears are and confront them and be okay with them. I think that's an important part, because there are definitely a lot of things which will make us uncomfortable. But sometimes when you go into those uncomfortable situations, you end up realizing, oh, why didn't I do this earlier? This is so much, this makes so much more sense. Or I enjoy this. Why didn't I do this before? I think a lot of people get really scared and hesitate a lot of times. And we hide behind words like procrastination or, not being ready, or just fear itself. Just confront those fears, recognize them, and be okay with not being successful. Be okay with failing, because you learn something regardless, and that's not really a fail.
That's dope. So now I guess we've been going back and forth for a couple weeks here, and I know you're working on some new sort of platform where you can connect with students and educate them and share your knowledge and passion.
Yeah. So, I mean, a part of, I guess, diversifying myself is, I started a Patreon. There's, different levels to, what I offer on the Patreon, but it's all based on what I've been doing for 20 plus years, which is breaking. And I know some people who are out of reach, of my immediate area have asked me for feedback from battles that they've done and send me footage, have asked me, about teaching, about even just philosophies about the dance and about the culture. And the Patreon gives me an opportunity to reach out to those people. Because technology, even though I'm trying to be a little bit more of a nomad, technology still is a really good thing, especially in these situations, especially communication and sharing knowledge. I think, with the Patreon, it allows me to have some kind of stability, financially, something that will help support me. A lot of it's, little tutorials that, I'm putting up on just I'm starting out with basic information for a lot of people that are new, but also teaching those basic informations to people that maybe aren't new and explaining how you can flip it, how you can change one simple step into something else. Like you could turn a CC into a variation of the CC, how to do that, how to think about that. I think that's really important. And then, locally also, I, started, doing privates, and these privates are specifically, I don't want to take privates on for new people, because people that are new to breaking, you can literally, like, let's be honest, let's be real. You can literally go on YouTube and you can learn how to, like, do a 6-step, right? There's a lot online that, you can get the basic information of what breaking is. Whether it's watered down or not, I can't answer to that because that's not my place. But I think what is missing is like people that are kind of like stuck in this middle ground and they're trying to get to the next level. And, having those privates here locally, I think for dancers that are looking to take it to the next step, I'm offering, some type of opportunity to that and giving my knowledge based off of it.
That's really dope. And, there is interview, got to listen to your knowledge, your passion for this dance. So it's dope that there's this platform now to get deeper with you.
Yeah. I mean, even on the Patreon, like, I want to get to the point where, like, if it grows, I have a higher tier. It's kind of like an apprenticeship where I want to be able to fund those people that are at that top tier that contribute. I want to be able to fly them out to the big competitions to challenge themselves. So like, I want to be like, yo, I bought your ticket. You're going to, IB. You're going to Undisputed, whatever the case is, right? It doesn't matter. Whatever the competition is, if it's on a global scale, I want to be able to challenge them to go to it, compete, and then come back, and then we discuss, how'd you do? Oh, I did whack. I didn't even make it. Okay, let's talk about it. How'd you feel? Did you prep? I mean, did you eat a bunch of junk food before you go? Like, what happened? Like, these things are really important. The little bits of information that we tend to forget. And that's like kind of like a bigger goal of mine for the Patreon thing, and give those people the opportunity to do those things.
Yeah, dude, I think that's incredible. If people want to find out more about this and connect with you, where can they go?
I mean, you can go to my Instagram has all my tags and everything. My Instagram's Complex Ash, one word. But you can go to the Patreon, also, which is, patreon.com, /complex breaks. I started an Instagram for Complex Breaks also, all one word, pretty straightforward. But yeah, I even started a Reddit, a subreddit, and ideally I want the subreddit to actually be kind of like an online flea market where people can talk about, if they got like some vintage like gear that they want to sell, people can connect that way. Just building a community, not just about the dance, but the culture around the dance. Even if like people are into vinyl and want to talk about vinyl, I just want to create that kind of like that space that a lot of like, cause I don't know if a lot of people are on Reddit, but I mean, there's a lot of subreddit channels that are specifically for subcultures, and I feel like there are some breaking subreddits, but like not one that really talks about kind of like the community-based stuff. They're just kind of like posting up footage and like, oh man, did you see this? This guy killed it. It was crazy. And I'm like, yo, that's cool, but like, let's talk about community stuff. And like sure. your chapter of your community, and like, what are you guys?
Dope, man. That's really dope. Definitely, guys, check it out. Complex Breaks. I'm gonna have all of that in the description of the show notes page, everything. Is there anything else that you kind of want to touch on before we wrap up here?
No, just like, if people have questions, most of my handles online is all Complex Ash. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Subreddit is Complex Breaks also. So, I mean, you can even post questions there. Don't be scared to ask questions and to post. I feel like some people are like scared to have a voice sometimes. They like to be lurkers. People be online and they're just lurking, but they don't say anything. Like, don't be scared to like have a voice.
Dope. Okay, that's really dope. Yeah, if you even just put Complex Breaks one word into Google, your Reddit page will pop up. So
I did. There you go.
Easy. Twitter will pop up. It can't get easier than that. So.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Cool. All right, guys, you've been hanging out with Complex and your host, Wolvie. Head over to indecipher.com, search Complex in the search bar, and his show notes page will come up with all the links that we've been talking about, everything we've been talking about, all the way to the Patreon. Thank you, Complex, for getting on the mic and sharing your experience, your knowledge, your history, and yeah, dude, this message will reach and inspire many b-boys and b-girls around the world. Hope to have you back on the show, man. But until then, we'll catch you in the Cypher.
Dope. Thanks.
And there you have it, guys. Thank you, Ash, for linking up with me and hopping on the mic. Again, head over to www.complexbreaks.com or www.patreon.com/complexbreaks to learn more about Ash's education and outreach program. Additionally, check out @ComplexBreaks on Instagram for new updates and content releases. And keep up directly with Ash at ComplexAsh on Instagram. He's pushing out content regularly and he's speaking on the philosophies of hip hop and educating. So if that interests you, definitely check him out on his Patreon. Again, check us out too. We're on Instagram @_InTheCypher I'm posting sneak peeks, extra content, behind the scenes, and features of guests we have on the show. So be sure to check it out. And Instagram is the main way I communicate with you, the listener of the show. And I've got some cool things cooking up. So follow us on there and I'll reach out to you at _in the cipher. All right. And that's all I have for you today. I'll catch you guys on the next episode, or I will catch you in the cipher. Peace out. Take care. Bye-bye.